The late afternoon sun slanted through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Caldwell Ventures' boardroom, casting long shadows across the polished mahogany table. San Francisco sprawled out below, cable cars rattling, tech bros in hoodies weaving through traffic, the hum of ambition thick in the air. I adjusted my tie, a custom job from some overpriced tailor in Union Square, and glanced at my Rolex 4:57 p.m., a habit I'd picked up after my first billion, times the one thing money can't buy, but damn if I wasn't going to keep track of it. The usual suspects filled the room. My CFO, Harrison, tapping his Mont Blanc pen like he was auditioning for a drum solo, a couple of eager investors in Patagonia vests, sipping overpriced oat milk lattes, and my assistant, Claire, hovering near the door with a stack of folders. We were here to talk about some startup, Rise Up Tech, they called it. Another pitch, another Tuesday. I'd seen 1,000 of these, and most were DOA, dead on arrival. I barely skimmed the brief Claire had dropped on my desk that morning. Promising, she'd said, but the CEO's different, whatever that meant. Then the door swung open, and she walked in. Maya Jackson, 32 years old, CEO of Rise Up Tech, and not a damn thing like the founders I was used to. No Silicon Valley uniform, no hoodie, no sneakers, no fake humility. She wore a leather jacket that looked like it had seen some stories, dark jeans that hugged her frame just right, and her natural curls were pulled into a high bun that said she didn't have time for bullshit. Her brown eyes scanned the room, sharp and steady, like she was sizing us up instead of the other way around. The air shifted. Harrison stopped tapping. The investors sat up straighter. Even Claire froze mid-step. She didn't wait for introductions. "Afternoon, folks," she said, her voice smooth but firm, with a faint Oakland drawl that hit like a shot of espresso. "I'm Maya Jackson, and I'm here to talk about Rise Up Tech. Not just what we do, but why it matters. You ready to listen?" I leaned back in my Italian leather chair, arms crossed, expecting the usual spiel, charts, buzzwords, a desperate grab for my checkbook. But Maya didn't roll that way. She clicked a remote, and the screen behind her lit up. Not with graphs, but with a photo of a barber shop in East Oakland. Faded red and white stripes on the pole, a handwritten walk-ins welcome sign taped to the door. "This is Big Mike's," she said. "Been cutting hair for 30 years. Last year he was about to shut down, couldn't keep up with the apps and the chains. We built him a site, got him online, hooked him up with a delivery service for his pomade side hustle. Now, he's got a wait list." She flipped to another image, a tiny taqueria in Fresno run by a family of 4. "This is Rose's. They were losing customers to DoorDash giants. We gave them a platform, taught them digital marketing. Sales are up 200%. Her eyes locked on mine for a split second, and I swear I felt it in my chest. This isn't about disruption or some tech bro fantasy. It's about real people, real businesses, real communities. I should have been taking notes, asking questions, doing my usual thing, poking holes, finding leverage. I'd built Caldwell Ventures from my granddad's dusty trading firm into a global powerhouse by knowing how to read people, how to spot the cracks. At 35, I was the guy the Chronicle called the King of Silicon Valley, a title I didn't care for but didn't correct either. Success was my lane, my shield. I thought I had it all figured out, until Maya Jackson walked in and made me feel like a rookie. The board threw their usual curveballs. Harrison, with his smug Ivy League grin, piped up, "Your growth projections seem optimistic, Ms. Jackson. Care to back that up?" She didn't flinch, just pulled up a slide. Case studies, not guesses. Stories of nail salons in Atlanta, bodegas in the Bronx, all thriving because of her tech. Her voice carried this quiet fire when she talked about impact, not profit. It wasn't rehearsed. It was earned. And it made my billions feel like monopoly money. The meeting stretched past an hour, unheard of for me. Nobody moved to leave. She had us hooked, these jaded millionaires who'd heard every pitch under the sun. When she wrapped up, gathering her tablet and jacket, I saw my shot. The room started to clear, Harrison muttering about due diligence, the investors buzzing about potential. I stayed back, smoothing my tie, trying to play it cool. "Ms. Jackson," I started, then corrected myself with a grin I hoped looked charming. "Maya, that was impressive. How about we keep this going over dinner? I know a spot in Nob Hill, great steak, better wine." She looked up from her tablet, and for a split second, I saw surprise flicker across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by something guarded but warm, like she was sizing me up one last time. "I don't mix business with bourbon, Mr. Caldwell," she said, the faintest smirk tugging at her lips. "But I'll take a coffee meeting if you've got real questions." She slung her bag over her shoulder, gave me a nod, and walked out, leaving me standing there, half stunned, half hooked. The room felt emptier without her. I ran a hand through my hair, replaying her words. Bourbon, coffee. Who was this woman? I'd just been shot down, politely sure, but shot down, in front of my own boardroom table, and I couldn't even be mad. For the first time in years, I was intrigued. Let me back up a bit. My name's Ethan Caldwell, and I'm not used to being thrown off my game. I grew up in a penthouse overlooking the bay, private schools, trust funds, the whole silver spoon deal. My granddad started Caldwell Ventures back when tech meant typewriters, but I turned it into what it is today, a machine that spots undervalued companies and flips them for billions. I don't lose sleep over it. Sleep's for people who don't have a private jet parked at SFO. My life's a well-oiled routine. Board meetings, rooftop cocktails, the occasional date with some model who's more interested in my Amex than my stories. It's comfortable, predictable. That morning, I'd rolled into the office late. Traffic on the 101 was a nightmare, even in the Tesla. Claire had the Rise Up Tech folder waiting on my desk, next to my triple-shot espresso. "Different," she'd said, raising an eyebrow like she knew something I didn't. I flipped it open, saw the basics. Oakland-based, minority-focused, bootstrapped out of a garage. Yawn. I'd seen scrappy startups before. Most of them begged for my money, then folded in 6 months. I tossed the folder aside, figuring I'd wing it. How hard could it be? Big mistake. When Maya walked in, it wasn't just her pitch that hit me. It was her. The way she owned the room without trying. None of that fake swagger you see in pitch decks. Her nails were short but neat, her hands moving quick as she gestured, no rings catching the light. Practical, elegant, like everything about her. And when she laughed, some investor tried to trip her up with a dumb question about scalability, and she just let out this low, real chuckle. It cut through the boardroom's stale air like a breeze off the Pacific. I hadn't heard laughter like that in here since... ever. I caught myself staring, then snapped out of it. Focus, Ethan. She wasn't here to impress me. She was here to challenge me, and damn if she didn't. By the time she shut down Harrison's condescending, optimistic jab with hard data and a raised eyebrow, I was sold. Not just on Rise Up Tech, but on her. I didn't even care about the numbers anymore. I wanted to know her story. As the room emptied out, her rejection still ringing in my ears, I made a call. Not to Claire, not to Harrison, to myself. I was going to figure out Maya Jackson. Not because of the deal, not because of the optics. Because for the first time in a long time, I'd met someone who made me feel like I wasn't the smartest guy in the room. And I liked it. That night, I didn't head back to my penthouse with its cold marble floors and city views. I pulled up Google on my laptop. Yeah, basic, I know. And typed her name. Rise Up Tech's site popped up first. Clean, no frills, all about empowering the overlooked. Then an old interview from some Oakland paper. Maya Jackson, the kid who coded her way out of East Bay, now lifting others with her. I leaned back, the glow of the screen lighting up my face. This wasn't just another pitch. This was the start of something I couldn't shake. Hey, if you're hooked on Ethan and Maya's first clash, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Who do you think's gonna crack first? Stick around, 'cause this is just the beginning. A week after Maya Jackson handed me my first polite rejection, I found myself pulling up to a converted warehouse in East Bay, Oakland. The Tesla's GPS chirped, "You have arrived," but I double-checked the address. This wasn't the shiny glass towers of downtown San Francisco I was used to. The street was gritty, cracked asphalt, a bodega on the corner blasting reggaeton, kids dribbling a basketball under a rusty hoop. Rise Up Tech's HQ sat squat and unassuming, its brick walls tagged with faded graffiti, a neon open sign flickering in the window. I adjusted my sunglasses, feeling out of place in my tailored blazer and loafers, and stepped out. Inside, it was a different world. The air buzzed with energy. Hip-hop beats thumped low from a Bluetooth speaker. Coders in hoodies hunched over laptops. A ping-pong table sat in the corner with paddles strewn across it. The walls were plastered with photos. Barbershop owners grinning next to new websites. Families cutting ribbons at reopened stores. It smelled like fresh coffee. Not the corporate sludge I was used to, but something rich, roasted local. A chalkboard by the door read, "Hustle hard, lift others." Maya's mantra, I guessed. She spotted me before I could find her. "Ethan Caldwell," she called out, leaning against a desk with a mug in hand. "You actually showed up." Her leather jacket was gone today, swapped for a simple black tee and jeans, but that same fire flickered in her eyes. She didn't move to greet me, just smirked, like she was testing if I'd bolt. "Wouldn't miss it," I said, flashing what I hoped was a winning grin. "You sold me on Big Mike's pomade hustle. Figured I'd see what else you're cooking up." She raised an eyebrow, then jerked her head toward the back. "Come on, then. Let's give you the nickel tour." I followed her through the chaos. Past a guy debugging code with one hand while eating a taco with the other. Past a huddle of interns laughing over some meme on a screen. It was messy, alive, nothing like the sterile boardrooms I ruled. Maya didn't apologize for it. She owned it. She stopped at a workstation where a young guy, maybe 25, dreads tied back, tapped away at a keyboard. "This is Jaden," she said, "our resident genius. He's building an app for a soul food joint in West Oakland. Online ordering, loyalty perks, the works." Jaden glanced up, gave me a quick nod, then went back to his screen. No ass-kissing, no small talk. I liked that. Maya kept going, pointing out projects like a proud mom. "Over there's our payment system for street vendors. Cuts out the middleman fees. And that's Tasha's desk. She's my right hand, keeps this place from burning down." A woman with a buzz cut and a no-nonsense vibe looked up from her laptop, eyeing me like I was a tax auditor. Tasha Brooks. I'd learn later. COO. Maya's best friend since their Oakland days, and not exactly my biggest fan. We ended up in a break room that doubled as a kitchen. A beat-up couch sat against one wall. A fridge hummed in the corner, and a coffee pot bubbled with that same local brew I'd smelled earlier. Maya grabbed a second mug, mismatched, chipped, the kind you'd find at a thrift store, and poured me some. "Black, right?" she asked, handing it over. "How'd you guess?" I took a sip. Damn, it was good. Earthy, bold, nothing like the burnt Starbucks I usually choked down. "Lucky shot," she said, leaning against the counter. "So what's the play, Ethan? You here to throw money at us, or you actually want to get it?" I set the mug down, crossing my arms. "I get it. You're building something real, small businesses, communities, all that. But I'm not here for charity. I see potential. Caldwell Ventures could take Rise Up Tech to the next level, more reach, more impact." She tilted her head, studying me. More impact, huh? Or more zeros in your bank account? Before I could answer, the break room door swung open, and in walked trouble. Derek Voss, 6 feet of smug, dressed in a slim-fit suit that screamed, "I own half of Palo Alto." His blonde hair was slicked back, his grin sharp enough to cut glass. I'd known him since Stanford, back when we were frat bros chasing the same deals, the same girls. Now he was my biggest rival in the valley, a shark who'd got a startup faster than you could say, Series A. "Well, well," Derek drawled, clapping his hands once. "Ethan Caldwell slumming it in Oakland. Didn't expect to see you here, man." He turned to Maya, extending a hand she didn't take. "Derek Voss, Voss Capital. Heard good things about Rise Up Tech. Thought I'd swing by, check it out." Maya crossed her arms, mirroring me. "Funny timing. We don't usually get drop-ins from suits like you." Derek laughed, unfazed. "I like to move fast. Your outfit's making waves, Maya. Can I call you Maya? I've got a proposal. Voss Capital's ready to buy Rise Up Tech outright. 9 figures, cash on the table. You'd be set for life, and we'd scale this thing nationwide." The room went quiet. Jaden poked his head in from the hall, eyes wide. Tasha materialized behind Derek, arms crossed tighter than a bouncer's. I felt my jaw clench. 9 figures. That was a bold swing, even for Derek. He was trying to steal this out from under me, and he knew it. Maya didn't blink. She stepped closer to Derek, her voice low but steel hard. "I didn't build this to cash out to some suit who'll gut it. Rise Up's not for sale. Not to you, not to anyone. We're here to lift people up, not line your pockets." Derek smirked, glancing at me like we were in on some joke. "Cute. But let's be real. Every founder's got a price. Ethan knows that, don't you, buddy? How much you offering her? Or you just here for the coffee?" I stepped forward, heat rising in my chest. "She said no, Derek. Back off. Rise Up's not your plaything." He raised his hands, mock surrender. "Whoa, touchy. Didn't realize you were so invested, Caldwell." He turned back to Maya, sliding a business card onto the counter. "Think it over. You've got my number. But don't wait too long. Offers like this don't sit around." With a wink at me, he sauntered out, leaving the air thick with tension. Tasha broke the silence first. "Who the hell was that clown?" "Trouble," I muttered, picking up my mug again just to have something to do with my hands. Maya stared at Derek's card like it was a dead bug, then flicked it into the trash. "He's not wrong about one thing," she said, turning to me. "Everyone's got a price. What's yours, Ethan? You gonna try to buy me out too?" I met her gaze, steady as I could. "I don't want your company, Maya. I want in on what you're doing, with you, not over you. That's the difference between me and him." She didn't respond right away, just sipped her coffee, those sharp brown eyes boring into me. Finally, she nodded, barely. "We'll see. Tour's over, though. I've got work to do." I watched her walk back into the chaos of her world, leaving me with a half-empty mug and a hell of a lot to think about. Derek's move wasn't just a power play. It was a warning. He wouldn't let this go easy, and I'd just put myself square in his crosshairs. But it wasn't about him anymore. It was about her. About proving I wasn't just another suit with a checkbook. Back in the Tesla, I didn't head straight home. I cruised through Oakland streets, past the barbershops and taquerias she'd talked about, the places she was fighting for. My penthouse felt 1,000,000 miles away, and for once, I didn't want to be there. Maya Jackson wasn't just a CEO. She was a force, and I was starting to realize I'd underestimated her. Worse, I liked it. Derek's smug face flashed in my mind, his losing game jab echoing. He thought he had the upper hand, but he didn't know Maya. And maybe he didn't know me anymore either. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The Mission District was alive that night, buzzing with the kind of energy only San Francisco can pull off on a Wednesday. Taquerias spilled salsa-scented steam onto the sidewalks, murals glowed under streetlights, and a mariachi band's trumpet wailed from somewhere down 24th Street. I'd suggested meeting Maya at a coffee spot here. Neutral ground, low stakes, a chance to figure out where we stood after Derek's little stunt. The place was a hole in the wall called La Vida Brew. All chipped wooden tables and mismatched chairs, the kind of joint where the barista knows your order before you open your mouth. I got there early, snagged a corner table, and nursed a black coffee that hit harder than my usual espresso. Maya rolled in 10 minutes later, her leather jacket slung over one shoulder, her curls loose tonight instead of tied up. She looked tired, lines under her eyes I hadn't noticed before, but still carried that fire, like she could take on the world and win. She dropped into the chair across from me, tossing her bag on the floor. "All right, Caldwell," she said, skipping the small talk. "What's this about? You still mad about your buddy Derek crashing my party?" I smirked, leaning back. "Not my buddy anymore. And nah, I'm not mad, just curious. You handled him like a pro. Where'd you learn to shut down assholes like that?" She grabbed the coffee I'd ordered for her, black, like mine, and took a sip before answering. "Oakland High, class of 11. You don't survive there without a thick skin and a quick mouth." Her lips quirked, not quite a smile. "What about you? Stanford didn't teach you how to dodge sleazy investors?" "Stanford taught me how to be the sleazy investor," I shot back, grinning. "But I'm trying to unlearn it. You're making me rethink a lot of shit, Maya." She raised an eyebrow, skeptical but listening. "Like what?" I hesitated, running a hand through my hair. This wasn't my usual play, laying it out raw like this, but something about her pulled it out of me. Like how I've been moving money around for years, chasing wins, but it's never felt like this. I gestured vaguely, trying to pin down the feeling. "What you're doing, it's real. Big Mike, Rosa, those folks you're helping, I've never built anything that matters like that." She studied me, her gaze sharp enough to cut through bullshit. "Don't get all soft on me now, Ethan. You're still the guy with the Rolex and the penthouse. We're not the same." "I know we're not," I said, leaning forward. "That's why I'm here. I want to get it. Really get it. Not just throw cash at you and call it a day." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at it, and her face tightened. "Speak of the devil," she muttered, flipping it over so I couldn't see the screen. But I caught the name. Tasha. Her right hand. The one who'd glared daggers at me back at Rise Up Tech. I had a bad feeling this wasn't a friendly check-in. "Everything cool?" I asked, keeping my tone light. She didn't answer right away, just sipped her coffee like she was buying time. Finally, she set the mug down, hard enough to make it clink. "Tasha's not thrilled about you sniffing around. Thinks you're old money waiting to screw us over the second it gets messy." I bristled but kept my cool. "And you? What do you think?" "I think you're still proving yourself," she said, point blank. "Words are cheap, Ethan. I've heard a lot of pretty promises from guys like you." That stung, but I couldn't argue. I opened my mouth to push back, but the door to La Vida swung open, and a gust of cool night air swept in with a familiar voice. "Ethan! Thought I'd find you slumming it out here." My sister Nia strutted over, all long legs and designer boots, her curly hair bouncing like she'd just stepped out of a shampoo ad. She was the only one in the Caldwell clan who didn't treat me like a walking ATM, but her timing sucked. "Nia? What the hell?" I groaned, rubbing my temples. "This isn't a good time." She ignored me, flopping into the chair next to Maya with a grin. "Hi, I'm Nia Caldwell. Ethan's better half, family-wise. You must be Maya. Heard you're shaking up his whole world." Maya's lips twitched, amused despite herself. "Something like that. Nice to meet you." "Same," Nia said, then turned to me with that big sister smirk. "You didn't tell me she was this cool. What's the deal? You two plotting a takeover or just flirting over coffee?" I shot her a look. "Shut up, please." But Maya jumped in. "Business, mostly. Your brother's trying to convince me he's not just another rich guy with a savior complex." Nia laughed, loud and bright. "Good luck with that. He's been playing King of the Hill since he was 10. But he's got a heart under all that ego. Mom made sure of it." Maya's eyes flicked to me, curious now. "Mom, huh?" I shifted in my seat, suddenly wishing I'd ordered something stronger than coffee. "Yeah, she passed when I was 12. Cancer. She was the one who kept me grounded. Well, as grounded as you can be growing up in Russian Hill." Maya softened, just a fraction. "Sorry to hear that. My mom's still around, thank God. Raised me solo in Oakland, 3 jobs, no sleep. She's why I do this." I nodded, feeling a thread connect us. Thin, but there. "Sounds like a hell of a woman." "She is," Maya said, her voice quieter now. "But look, Ethan, Her phone buzzed again, cutting her off. This time she answered it, turning away slightly. "Tasha, what's up?" "What? When?" Her tone sharpened, and my gut twisted. Something was wrong. She hung up, staring at the table like she could burn a hole through it. "Trouble?" I asked, keeping it casual but ready to jump in. She exhaled hard, running a hand over her face. "You could say that. Jaden, he's the kid I showed you at the office. He sent some internal docs to a client, but they leaked. Hit the press 20 minutes ago. Headlines already out. Rise Up Tech in bed with Caldwell Ventures?" "Shit," I muttered, pulling out my phone. Sure enough, there it was on TechCrunch. Black startup darling falls for Silicon Valley king. Sources say Maya Jackson's cozying up to Ethan Caldwell for a bailout. The comments were worse, half racist, half sexist, all garbage. "This isn't me, Maya. "I know it's not you," she snapped, standing up fast enough to rattle the table. "But it's still a mess. Tasha's pissed, Jaden's freaking out, and now I've got every blogger in the Bay Area calling me a sellout. I told you. People like me don't get the benefit of the doubt." Nia frowned, glancing between us. "Wait, hold up. You think this is Ethan's fault?" "No," Maya said, grabbing her bag. "But it's his world. I've been dodging this crap my whole career. Every step I take, someone's waiting to tear it down. And now this? I can't—" She stopped, took a breath, then looked at me, her eyes hard. "I need to fix this. Alone. I'll call you when I've got my head straight." "Maya, wait." I stood, but she was already halfway to the door, her jacket swinging behind her. The bell above the entrance jangled as she stepped out into the night, leaving me with Nia and a cold cup of coffee. Nia whistled low. "Damn, bro, you're in deep." "Tell me something I don't know," I growled, slumping back into my chair. My phone buzzed. Claire, probably seeing the same headlines and panicking. I ignored it, staring at the spot where Maya had been. She was right. This was my world, the one I'd built, where rumors spread faster than truth and optics mattered more than facts. But I hadn't leaked anything. Jaden had screwed up, sure, but this felt bigger, sharper, like someone wanted it to blow up. Derek's face flashed in my mind, that slick grin from the warehouse. He wouldn't, would he? I clenched my fist, the Rolex digging into my wrist. If he was behind this, I'd bury him. But first, I had to figure out how to fix it with Maya. She didn't trust me. Not fully, and I couldn't blame her. I'd walked into her life thinking I could play the hero, but all I'd done was drag her into my mess. Naya reached over, squeezing my arm. "She's tough, Ethan. Give her space. But don't screw this up. She's worth it." "Yeah," I muttered, staring out the window at the mission's flickering lights. "I know." The next morning, I woke up to a headache and a dozen missed calls. Claire, Harrison, even Nia, who texted, "You good, dummy?" I wasn't. That TechCrunch headline was still burning a hole in my brain, and Maya's exit last night left me rattled. I tossed and turned in my Russian Hill penthouse, the city lights mocking me through the glass walls. For the first time in years, I didn't have a plan, just a gut feeling that I couldn't let this fall apart. I needed to see her world, not just hear about it. So, against Nia's advice, "You're pushing too hard, Ethan. Chill." I grabbed my keys and headed for Oakland. No driver, no security, just me in the Tesla, cruising across the Bay Bridge with the radio off and my thoughts loud. The San Francisco skyline shrank in the rear view, replaced by East Bay's sprawl. Warehouses, corner stores, the faint hum of BART trains overhead. It was a different beat, raw and real, and I was out of my depth. I parked near a library Maya had mentioned once, a squat brick building on International Boulevard, its windows plastered with flyers for free coding classes and food drives. She'd said it was where she'd taught herself to code as a teen, sneaking in after school with borrowed books and a busted laptop. I stepped inside, the air thick with that musty paper smell, and spotted a row of ancient PCs in the back. A kid, maybe 14, hoodie up, sat at one, typing furiously. I wondered if that was her back then, grinding while the world kept spinning. My phone buzzed. Maya's name lit up the screen, and my pulse kicked up. "Hey," I answered too fast. "Ethan." Her voice was clipped, tired. "Tasha said you're in Oakland. What are you doing?" Scoping out your old haunts," I said, trying to sound casual. "Library on International, figured I'd get a feel for where you started." Silence. Then, "Stay put, I'm 5 minutes out." She pulled up in a beat-up Prius, the kind that screams, "I don't care about status," and climbed out in jeans and a faded Warriors tee. No jacket today, just her, unguarded for once. "You're a stubborn one," she said, crossing her arms as she leaned against the car. "Thought I told you I needed space." "You did," I admitted, shoving my hands in my pockets. "But I'm not good at sitting still when shit hits the fan. I want to understand, Maya. Really understand. Not just the pitch, but you." She studied me, her eyes narrowing like she was waiting for the catch. Finally, she sighed. "Fine. Walk with me. But don't expect a sob story. I'm not here to play tour guide for your guilt trip." "No guilt," I said, falling into step beside her. "Just curiosity." Oakland unfolded around us as we walked, past a barbershop blasting trap music, a mural of black heroes stretching across a wall, a taco truck with a line snaking around the corner. The air smelled like grilled meat and diesel, and kids darted past on bikes yelling over each other. Maya didn't rush, just pointed stuff out like it was second nature. "That's where I worked weekends at 16, she said, nodding at a bakery with a faded fresh bread sign. $10 an hour, cash under the table. Saved every penny for my first real computer." "Bet you were a hustler even then," I said, grinning. "Had to be," she shot back. Mom was pulling doubles at the hospital, and I wasn't about to let her carry it all. She paused by a corner store, its windows stacked with candy and cheap phone chargers. "Built my first website here. Digitized their inventory for free just to practice. Owner still sends me Christmas cards." We kept going, her stories piling up like bricks in a wall I hadn't seen before. Then we hit a stretch of small businesses, a nail salon, a soul food spot, a thrift store with mannequins and Raiders gear. An older woman burst out of the soul food joint, her apron dusted with flour, and lit up when she saw Maya. "Baby girl," she cried, pulling her into a hug that smelled like fried chicken and love. "You back to check on us?" "Always, Miss Rosa," Maya said, smiling. Real, unguarded, the kind of smile I hadn't earned yet. She turned to me. "Ethan, this is Rosa Carter. Her spot was about to tank a few years back. Bank wouldn't give her a loan. We got her online, hooked her up with a delivery app. Now she's feeding half the neighborhood." Rosa squeezed my arm, her grip strong for someone pushing 70. "This girl's an angel, you hear me? Saved my shop when everyone said I should close. You treating her right?" "Trying to," I said, caught off guard. "She's a tough one to keep up with." Rosa laughed, deep and warm. "That's my Maya. Don't you let her down now." She hustled back inside, yelling at someone about burning the cornbread, and I looked at Maya, really looked. She wasn't just a CEO. She was a lifeline, a fighter who'd built something bigger than herself. My world of boardrooms and billion-dollar deals felt small next to that. We sat on a bench outside Rosa's, the sun dipping low, painting the street gold. "This is why I don't sell out," Maya said, her voice steady. "Not to Derek, not to anyone. It's not just business. It's people." "I get it," I said, meaning it this time. "But you can't do it alone forever. What if I'm not here to buy you out? What if I'm here to help you build?" She didn't answer right away, just stared at the kids playing ball across the street. Then her phone rang, shattering the moment. She pulled it out, and her face went stone cold. "Tasha," she answered. "What now?" I couldn't hear the other side, but Maya's jaw tightened with every word. "How bad?" "You're kidding." "All right, I'm coming." She hung up, standing fast. "We've got a problem." "That client Jaden leaked the docs too? They just bailed, pulled their contract this morning. Says they don't trust us with Caldwell money in the mix." "Shit," I said, standing too. "Maya, let me—" "No." She cut me off, sharp. "This is on me. But they're not wrong to wonder. You're a risk, Ethan. I've got a team freaking out, a company on the edge, and now this. I can't afford risks." "I'm not a risk," I said, stepping closer. "I'm in this with you. Let me help. Money, connections, whatever you need." She shook her head, backing up. "I don't need your money, Ethan. I need a partner who gets it, not someone who thinks he can fix me with a checkbook." Her voice cracked, just a little, and it hit me harder than any boardroom loss. "We lost a big chunk of revenue today. Tasha's calling an emergency meeting. I've got to go." "Maya, wait." I reached for her arm, but she pulled away, already heading for her car. "I'll call you," she said over her shoulder, but it didn't sound like a promise. The Prius peeled out, leaving me on that Oakland sidewalk, the weight of her words sinking in. She didn't trust me, not fully, and why should she? I'd walked in thinking I could play the hero, but all I'd done was make her life harder. I wandered back to the Tesla, the library looming behind me like a quiet judge. My phone buzzed. Nia again. "Told you to chill. You okay?" I didn't reply. Instead, I pulled up the TechCrunch article, rereading the venom in those comments. Sellout, token, gold digger. They didn't know her. Didn't know the kid who'd coded in this library, the woman who'd saved Rosa's shop. But they'd keep coming, and now her company was bleeding because of it. I gripped the steering wheel, staring out at Oakland's fading light. Maya was right. I didn't get it, not all of it. But I was starting to. Her world wasn't about profit margins or power plays. It was about survival, community, roots I'd never had to grow. And I'd just seen what she'd built, what she stood to lose. Derek's shadow loomed in my mind. Had he nudged that client to jump ship? I wouldn't put it past him. One thing was clear. I couldn't fix this with money. Not anymore. If I wanted in, if I wanted her, I had to prove I could fight her way, not mine. And that scared the hell out of me because for once, I didn't know the playbook. The chandelier light bounced off champagne flutes at the San Francisco Tech Gala, turning the ballroom into a glittering cage of egos. It was the kind of event I usually owned. Black tie crowd, big donors, the who's who of Silicon Valley sipping overpriced bubbly and pretending they cared about innovation for good. Tonight, though, I felt like an outsider in my own game. The TechCrunch leak had blown up, and whispers followed me through the room like a bad smell. I adjusted my tux, scanning the crowd for Maya. She'd agreed to come, reluctantly, after I'd pitched it as a chance to network, to show the world Rise Up Tech wasn't buckling. She walked in late, and damn if she didn't steal the air. No gown, no heels, just a tailored blazer over a black dress. Simple but sharp, her curls loose and wild. She didn't need flash to command the room. She just did. I caught her eye across the sea of suits, and she gave me a tight nod, half greeting, half warning. We hadn't talked much since Oakland, just a few clipped texts about the client loss. Rise Up Tech was still reeling, and I knew she blamed me, even if she wouldn't say it. I made my way over, dodging a venture capitalist trying to pitch me some AI nonsense. "You clean up nice," I said when I reached her, keeping it light. She smirked, barely. "Had to borrow this blazer from Tasha. Don't get used to it." She sipped a glass of water, no champagne for her, and scanned the room. "These your people?" "Some of them," I said, shrugging. "Most are just here for the free booze and the photo ops." Before she could fire back, a voice cut through the chatter. "Maya Jackson, the woman of the hour." It was Cynthia Voss, Derek's wife, all blonde highlights and fake charm, gliding over in a sequined dress that screamed money. I tensed. If Cynthia was here, Derek wasn't far behind. Maya turned, her face neutral but her eyes sharp. "That's me. And you are?" "Cynthia Voss," she said, extending a manicured hand Maya didn't take. "My husband's been raving about your little company. I just had to meet you." Her smile was syrupy, the kind that hides a knife. "You speak so well, really breaking stereotypes. And your business achievements? So inspiring." I saw Maya's jaw tighten, but she kept it cool. "Appreciate that," she said, her tone flat. "We're just getting started." Cynthia didn't catch the edge, or didn't care. "Oh, I'm sure. And teaming up with Ethan here? Smart move. He's got the Midas touch, doesn't he?" Maya glanced at me, her look unreadable. "We're not teamed up, just talking." I jumped in, trying to steer it off the rails. "Maya's the real deal, Cynthia. Rise Up's doing stuff we can't touch at Caldwell Ventures." Cynthia's laugh was high and grating. "Oh, Ethan, always the charmer. Well, you two make a cute pair, business or otherwise." She winked, then flounced off, leaving a cloud of perfume and tension. Maya turned to me, her voice low. "That happen a lot? People assuming I'm your diversity project?" "No," I lied, then backtracked. "Okay, sometimes, but screw 'em. They don't get you." "They don't," she agreed, but her eyes were distant. "Doesn't mean it's not exhausting." Before I could respond, a reporter from some tech rag, wiry guy, cheap suit, sidled up with a recorder. "Ms. Jackson, quick question. Rumors say Rise Up Tech's leaning on Caldwell Ventures to stay afloat. Is this a PR stunt to clean up Ethan's old money image?" I felt my blood boil. "Back off, man. That's not—" Maya cut me off, stepping forward. "Rise Up's standing on its own, always has. We're not here for anyone's image, mine or his. Next question." The guy smirked, undeterred. So the dinner pics, the late-night meetings, that's just business? No personal angle? I lost it. I said back off! My voice came out louder than I meant, heads turning, glasses clinking quieter. I grabbed his recorder, shoving it back at him. Get out of here before I— Ethan, stop! Maya's hand was on my arm, firm, pulling me back. The reporter scurried off, muttering about assault, and the room buzzed louder now. Phones out, cameras flashing. I could feel the headlines writing themselves. What the hell was that? Maya hissed, dragging me toward a corner. You trying to make this worse? He was a jackass, I snapped, shaking her off. I wasn't going to let him trash you. You just did! Her eyes blazed, and I saw the wall go up. You think I need you fighting my battles? I've been dealing with this crap since I was 16. Reporters, investors, all of them. I don't need a white knight, Ethan. I need you to not blow up my life. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. She was right. I'd made it worse, turned a dumb question into a scene. I'm sorry, I said finally, low. I hate seeing you take this shit. Then don't add to it, she shot back, turning to leave. I watched her weave through the crowd, her blazer a dark spot against the glitter, and felt like I'd just lost something I couldn't name. Back at my penthouse, I ditched the tux and poured a bourbon, pacing the marble floor. My phone was blowing up, Claire with damage control ideas, Nia with a simple, "You idiot." But I couldn't focus. The gala was a disaster, and Maya's words stung deeper than I wanted to admit. I thought I was helping, but I just proved her point. I didn't get it. Not yet. The next day it got uglier. The Chronicle ran it. Caldwell loses cool at gala, sparks questions about rise-up ties. Twitter was worse. Half the Bay Area calling me a hothead, the other half dragging Maya with every stereotype in the book. My granddad called from his estate in Marine, his voice gravelly over the line. Alexander Ethan Caldwell, what the hell are you doing? I get diversifying the portfolio, but this girl, she's a liability. Cut it loose. She's not a liability, I said, gripping the phone. She's the future. You'd see that if you looked past your scotch glass. He hung up, and I threw the phone onto the couch, cursing. Then Claire forwarded me an email from Harrison. Board's concerned. We need a meeting. This is spiraling. Great. Just great. Meanwhile, across the bay, Maya was fighting her own war. I found out later from a mutual contact. Rise Up Tech's emergency meeting had gone off the rails. Tasha had laid into her, loud enough for the whole team to hear. He's a walking red flag, Maya. Old money, old problems. We don't need this heat. Jaden, still guilty about the leak, backed her up, saying they couldn't trust me not to tank them. The room split. Half the crew wanted me gone, half wanted to ride it out. Maya stood in the middle, her voice cutting through the chaos. I'm trying to save us, not sell us, but I can't do this with you all turning on me. She held it together, barely, but the cracks were showing. That night, she sat alone in her office, a converted closet in the warehouse, staring at a photo of her mom on the desk. Her phone lit up with texts from community folks she'd helped, some accusing her of going corporate, others begging her to keep fighting. She didn't cry. Maya didn't do tears. But her hands shook as she typed a draft email to me, then deleted it. Back in San Francisco, I was staring at my bourbon, the ice melting into a puddle, when Nia barged in unannounced. You look like crap, she said, dropping onto my couch. What's the damage? Everything, I muttered. Maya's pissed. The board's freaking out. Granddad wants me to ditch her. I screwed up, Nia. Yeah, you did, she said, blunt as ever. But you're not wrong about her being the future. You just gotta figure out how to stop acting like the past. I looked at her, the one person who'd always called me on my bullshit. How? She won't even talk to me. Give her a reason to, Nia said, standing. Not with money or some big gesture, something real. She's drowning over there. You gonna let her? I didn't answer, just watched her leave. The gala fight replayed in my head. Maya's voice, her hand on my arm, the way she'd walked away. She was right. I didn't get her battles, not fully. And now her company was bleeding. My name was poison, and Derek was probably laughing his ass off somewhere. This wasn't just messy. It was broken. And for the first time, I didn't know if I could fix it. The warehouse lights at Rise Up Tech burned late that Friday, casting a glow over East Bay's quiet streets. I stood outside, hands stuffed in my jacket pockets, watching shadows move behind the graffiti-streaked walls. It had been 3 days since the gala implosion, 3 days of silence from Maya, 3 days of me dodging the board and Granddad's ultimatums. Nia's words kept looping in my head. Give her a reason to. I wasn't sure I had one, but I couldn't walk away. Not now. I'd spent those days digging, not into stock prices or market trends, but into the mess we were in. The leaked docs, the client bailing, the press firestorm, it didn't add up. Jaden's screw-up was sloppy, sure, but the timing felt too perfect, too sharp. Then I found it, buried in a string of emails Claire had forwarded. A forwarded message from Derek Voss to the client who ditched Rise Up Tech, dated the day before they pulled out. Caldwell's in over his head. Rise Up's a sinking ship. Let's talk alternatives. That bastard hadn't just stirred the pot. He'd rigged the game. I didn't call Maya. She wouldn't pick up anyway. Instead, I drove to Oakland, armed with the email printout and a hunch I couldn't shake. The warehouse door creaked open, and Tasha stepped out, her buzz cut catching the streetlight. "You've got some nerve," she said, arms crossed. "She doesn't want to see you." "I know," I said, holding up the paper. "But she needs to. 5 minutes, Tasha, please." She glared, then sighed. 5. And if she says bounce, you're gone. She jerked her head toward the door and I followed her in. The main floor was quiet. Most of the team had clocked out, but I heard voices from the back. Maya's office door was cracked open and she was inside, pacing, arguing with Jaden. "We can't keep bleeding clients like this," she snapped, her voice raw. "You gotta lock it down, Jaden. No more leaks, no more mistakes." "I'm trying," Jaden shot back, his dread swinging as he gestured. "But everyone's freaking out. Tasha's right, his name's killing us." I knocked, and they both froze. Maya's eyes narrowed when she saw me. "Ethan? What the hell?" 5 minutes, I said, stepping in. Tasha lingered by the door, watching like a hawk. "I've got something you need to see." She crossed her arms, exhausted but curious. "Make it quick." I handed her the email. "Derek set us up. He's the one who spooked your client, fed him lies about me tanking Rise Up. This wasn't Jaden's fault, not all of it. It was a hit." She scanned the page, her jaw tightening with every line. Jaden peeked over her shoulder, muttering, "That son of a—" Maya held up a hand, silencing him. When she looked up, her eyes were steel. "You're sure this is legit?" "Pulled it from my assistant's inbox," I said. "Derek's been playing dirty since day one. He wants you out of the game or under his thumb." She handed the paper to Tasha, who read it and cursed under her breath. "This why you're here?" Maya asked, voice low. "To play detective?" "No," I said, meeting her gaze. "I'm here because I'm done being the guy who makes this harder for you. I've got a board meeting tomorrow, big deal on the table, old school tech firm, millions in play. I'm walking away from it. I want to use that leverage to back you instead. Connections, not cash. No strings." Her brow furrowed. "Why? What's in it for you?" "You," I said, simple as that. "Not your company, not a deal, just you. I've been chasing wins my whole life, Maya, but you're the first thing that feels bigger than that. I'm not asking you to trust me yet. Just let me prove it." The room went quiet, the hum of the warehouse filling the space. Tasha shifted, Jaden stared, and Maya just looked at me, like she was peeling back every layer I'd built. Finally, she nodded slow. Okay, but this isn't a bailout. We fight this together, or not at all. Together, I said, and something clicked, like a lock turning. The next week, we faced the storm head-on. Rise Up Tech called a press conference. Nothing fancy, just a folding table outside the warehouse, a mic, and a crowd of reporters hungry for blood. Maya took the lead, her warrior's tee swapped for a blazer, but still all her. Raw, real, unbreakable. Rise Up Tech's not sinking, she said, voice steady over the murmurs. We're growing, helping businesses like Big Mike's and Rosa's thrive. Yeah, we hit a bump. Someone tried to knock us down, but we're still here, and we're not for sale. And she laid out the numbers. Real ones, not fluff. Small businesses they'd saved, families they'd lifted, communities they'd stitched back together. Then she dropped the email, reading Derek's words aloud, letting the crowd gasp and scribble. I stood behind her, not saying a word, just there, backing her play. When it was my turn, I kept it short. Caldwell Ventures isn't buying Rise Up Tech. We're partnering, investing in what they're building, not taking it over. This isn't about me. It's about them. Cameras flashed, but I didn't care. For once, it wasn't my show. Derek tried to spin it. Some PR flack released a statement about misunderstandings, but the damage was done. Clients started calling Maya back, apologizing, asking to renegotiate. The press flipped. TechCrunch ran a new headline. Rise Up Tech fights back. Caldwell takes a stand. Granddad called me a fool, but Naya texted a thumbs up. The board grumbled, but I'd already walked away from their deal. They'd get over it, or they wouldn't. I was done playing their game. That night, we ended up at a taco truck off Fruitvale Avenue, just me and Maya. No suits, no steaks. The air smelled like carne asada and lime, and a radio crackled with old-school salsa. We sat on a curb, paper plates balanced on our knees, and she laughed, really laughed, when I fumbled my taco salsa dripping down my shirt. You're a mess, Caldwell, she said, handing me a napkin. Always, I grinned, wiping it off. Worth it, though. She leaned back, staring at the stars peeking through Oakland's haze. You didn't have to ditch that deal for me, you know. Could have kept your millions and stayed clean. Didn't want to, I said, shrugging. I've got enough millions. What you're doing, that's what I want in on. Not the money, the fight. She looked at me, her eyes softer now, but still sharp. You're learning, huh? Trying, I said. You're a hell of a teacher. We didn't merge companies. Rise Up Tech stayed hers, fierce and independent. But we built something else. The Caldwell Jackson Fund, a pool of cash and connections to back minority startups. No takeovers, no egos, just support. A year later, we'd funded over 100 businesses, barbershops, food trucks, indie designers, and the numbers spoke. Doing good didn't mean losing out. It meant winning bigger. The media caught on eventually. Forbes ran a spread. The unlikely duo redefining tech. But it wasn't about the headlines anymore. It was about the late nights at that taco truck, the way she'd tease me about my terrible Spanish, the quiet moments when we'd sit and watch Oakland breathe. She didn't need me to save her. She never had. But she let me stand with her, and that changed everything. One night, at a tech conference in San Jose, a kid, maybe 15, shy but bright, asked Maya how she knew I was different from the rest. She glanced at me, her smile small but real. He didn't want to change me, she said. He let me change him. That's what sticks. I felt my throat tighten, but I just nodded. She was right. Love, real, messy, challenging love, doesn't demand. It builds. And we'd built something neither of us saw coming. So here's the takeaway. Don't let the world box you in. Your biggest fight, your best win, might be with someone who sees it all differently. Maya taught me that. Kicked my ass into it, really, and I'm still learning. Our story's not over, but it's ours, forged in fire and tacos and a little bit of faith. That's the end of Ethan and Maya's wild ride. Subscribe for more stories like this, and let me know in the comments. What's your biggest takeaway? Hit that button, 'cause we've got more where this came from.